On March 18th, 1925, a deadly tornado of unbelievable proportions touched down near Ellington, Missouri, and went on to become the deadliest and longest tracking tornado in United States history. In this video, we go over the devastation this tornado left across parts of the Midwest, and why even after nearly a century of this tornado occurring, it has still not been forgotten. Enjoy. Hello everybody, my name is Davis and welcome back to another video, and today we are here for a brand new series on this channel that we're starting. I'm calling it Every EF5/F5 Tornado Ever. Now this is going to be a series where we do a documentary on, you guessed it, every EF5 and F5 tornado ever to occur. Now there have been over 200 EF5 tornadoes in the United States over the past several decades, and in this series we're going to be documenting every single one of them, starting off with the infamous 1925 Tri-State tornado. Now, if you have a suggestion for what tornado I should do next in this series, please leave that down below, because as of right now, I don't have any current plans. So anyway, make sure to like and subscribe, as I put a lot of work and effort into this video, and let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, before we get into actually covering the monstrous Tri-State tornado itself, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the smaller tornadoes that occurred on this day. Now, we're not going to spend too long on this portion of the video because this is not what this video is about, but we are going to quickly talk about some of the bigger tornadoes that did happen on this day as well. Okay, so we had a very strong tornado that crossed the Ohio River just south of Louisville, Kentucky earlier in the day of March 18th that caused 4 fatalities, left a 18-mile path of destruction across portions of southern Indiana and western Kentucky, and another tornado that ended up ripping through the suburbs of Louisville that same day later into the afternoon. This was an F3 tornado that ended up causing 3 fatalities through the Hurstburn area. We had another F3 tornado move through portions of rural eastern Kentucky down by parts of Appalachia. This moved near the town of Springfield and ended up dissipating near Lexington, Kentucky. We had an F4 tornado actually that ended up impacting areas in Tennessee and Kentucky near Fountain Run. This was a very significant tornado that ended up causing 39 fatalities and near 100 injuries, and was on the ground for 55 miles. So arguably this was the second strongest tornado of the day, obviously just behind the Great Tri-State tornado. Then we had an F3 tornado down into portions of central Tennessee that stretched from southern portions of Nashville's outer suburbs back towards Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And then we had another F3 tornado just south of that area earlier in the day as well that ended up causing 2 fatalities down into portions of rural central Tennessee. We did have an F2 tornado down into parts of northwestern Alabama near the city of Florence. However, this one was not nearly as significant, although it did still cause 1 fatality and 12 injuries near the town of Littleville. Now, there were several other dozens of tornadoes that likely occurred on this day, but because this was almost a century ago, obviously we do not have the information on those exactly, so really only the strongest tornadoes of the day are highlighted on this map here. And once again, you can kind of see that it's centered around portions of the Tennessee, Mississippi, and Ohio river valleys, all the way from Alabama back up towards southern Illinois. But obviously the most noteworthy tornado of the event was the Tri-State tornado that again impacted portions of southeastern Missouri, far southern Illinois, and a little bit of southwestern Indiana. Now this tornado, as you could probably guess if you didn't already know, was an F5 if you couldn't tell by the intro of this video, alright? It had a path width of 1,200 yards, a path length of over 200 miles, making this the longest tracking tornado in recorded history. This tracked from near Ellington, Missouri, all the way into portions of southwest Indiana near the small town of Petersburg, and ended up decimating over a dozen towns along the way through parts of southeastern Missouri and southwest Indiana, but was at its strongest point, obviously, down in parts of southern Illinois. The town of Murfreesboro, in particular, got hit very hard by this tornado. There are some great documentations about it. If we go ahead and take a look at a more in-detail track here, we can see that Annapolis, 90% of the city was destroyed, 100% of Beale, Missouri was destroyed, 100% of Gorham, Illinois was destroyed, 40% of Murfreesboro was destroyed, but Murfreesboro, Illinois was also the town where we had the most casualties from this tornado. It ended up causing 234 casualties in the town alone. And keep in mind, this tornado was on the ground for over 3 hours, right? This was on the ground for 3.5 hours long. At least that's what we are estimating now in 2024. But again, this was nearly a century ago, so not every bit of information here is accurate. Now, all across the region that this devastating tornado impacted, there are memorials across these towns in southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, and especially southwestern Indiana, documenting what happened on this devastating day, with the most noteworthy one being located in southwestern Indiana, talking about the tri-state tornado's history. Now, there are several signs across the town that document exactly what happened that day. All right, this was, I believe, a monument in the town of Griffin. Again, these are all over the small town here in southwestern Indiana, but a less noteworthy event, but still devastating occurrence, was whenever the Wabash River flooded significantly, and there was only one way to reach Griffin. It was by boat or railroad, stated by this sign here, all right? So it was a very devastating flood, and again, made things even harder for people to get to that town whenever those people did need help after that devastating tornado occurred. So that was just another thing that added on to the complications of this wedge tornado. Now, this is not the only town with monuments, but some of the other towns and monuments and memorials and stuff are actually quite dark, so I decided not to include them in this video out of respect for the people that do know family and friends that lost their lives in this event. So anyways, I just thought I'd go ahead and include that little section. However, this definitely was a devastating tornado, and in total ended up causing over 600 fatalities, actually, once you calculate all the numbers up together. About 700 fatalities total. Some argue a little more than that, some argue a little less, but nevertheless, obviously a very serious tornado. Again, over 2,000 were injured, and this was at a point where tornado shelters were not a very common thing across portions of the Ohio Valley, but really just across the country in general. So these tornadoes here were not exactly well warned either. Obviously, we didn't have like the emergency alert system or anything like that at all at this point, so there was no real way for people to know that these tornadoes were coming. There weren't even tornado sirens at this point, so this was a very big devastation. And again, if this happened in 2024, sure, maybe there would be a few less fatalities, but even so, there would still be we would still be in the hundreds, right? This tornado, some tornadoes you just cannot hide from due to sheer strength of them. Most of them, right, you can obviously take precautions against, but whenever you get a tornado where we are estimating wind speeds over 300 miles per hour, it's completely slabbing homes off their foundation. There's not really a whole lot you can do against that, and this was one of those devastating scenarios where it was a combination of unpreparedness, lack of places to go, and then also just an incredibly violent tornado, staying on the ground for, again, almost 4 hours straight through portions of Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. So that's going to conclude this video. Again, I know it was pretty short, but if I'm going to crank out over 200 of these, they're obviously not going to be super long. So if you guys did enjoy, please be sure to like and subscribe. Again, let me know what tornado we should talk about next, because there are so many different tornadoes that we could do in this series. But until next time, peace.